Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you Sunday, June the 27th. The year's 2021. Let's talk trading. Weekly open and gap. This video is for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. So, as we look at the weekly chart here, we can already see that most of the gaps have filled. We have 1, 2, 3 gaps that haven't filled in the Australian pairs. So any of you trading the Australian pairs, you might want to take a look at that to see if there's an opportunity to take advantage of the gap fill. The pound gap down and moved up. As you can see on the chart, we're 7 pips off the high, 19 pips off the low, and 10 pips above the open at the moment. We're putting in the opening range here for the week. And as you can see, it looks like it's not going to be an inside bar. 247 pips above the yearly open, but 316 pips below the monthly open. So we'll have to see where the pound winds up this month. We have 3 trading days left this month, and also later this week, we're going to have the monthly open on Thursday, and we will have NFP on Friday, I do believe, unless they change the date because of the holiday. We'll have to wait and see what the announcement is. As I mentioned, we don't have any inside bars going to be happening on the pound, but we do have a handful of inside bars on the daily, on the weekly, and some on the monthly. Might be some good breaks for those of you trading those pairs with the numbers in either blue or gray. Right now, not much of a range, but something must be going on with New Zealand, because the pound, New Zealand's 192 pips, and the euro, New Zealand's 49 pips. Interesting enough, the New Zealand USD is only 28 pips. But I'm wondering what's going on, why the New Zealand US dollar didn't react the same way. We haven't hit the pivot yet. So interesting, we opened above the previous day, but we were below the pivot, so it was a toss-up depending on which bias you want. So basically, in that case, there wouldn't be a bias, and you just trade what you see. Range too low for the rat zone. Once again, there's the daily pivot. Weekly pivot, looks like we've already taken that one out. And we've already taken out the monthly pivot this month. So you can see we took out the weekly pivot, the daily pivot not quite, and we've taken the monthly pivot out a long time ago. Wick zone, in and out of that lower wick zone. We opened up inside, went to the south side, now to the north side. And looking at the monthly ranges, it doesn't seem like we're going to add anything to the range so far, but we're, anything can happen. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Now we might want to take a look. I think we already did on Friday's video, but we can look at the week again. Last week, high minus low 215, 45 percentile. We didn't break out of the previous week's high. We didn't break out. Oh, we did break out of the previous week's low only by 9 pips. So looking at the weekly, you can see it's kind of a mute. So far, it's definitely muted. Looks like we're going to head into the weekly wick zone here. We didn't have much, upper wick zone that is, didn't have much of a bottom one. On the wall mall trades, even during the Asian session, you can still trade wall mall. Don't look for the big pips. You can see the ranges once again are muted. 5 pip range so far this hour, 13 last, and 7 pips 2 hours ago. First couple of hours though, we definitely had some movement. We're just 4 hours into the trading day at the moment. But I'm really curious about those New Zealand pair, the New Zealand trading against the pound and the euro. I'm just wondering what happened. And the higher low, lower high, trading off of 3 LZZ. One thing that Walmart and I've noticed is if you stick with this trade, this type of DSR trade, using the higher low and lower high for a trigger, and if you're not greedy, you can almost grab a pip or two. You just have to be patient. It's best to wait for the 3 ball, which means you might be waiting maybe an hour or so sometimes for a trade. And some people can't wait that long, which I find amusing considering trading is 99% waiting. So you might as well wait for the best opportunities to present themselves, because they will, and you don't want to be all caught up in trades that are going against you and having to fight when all you had to do was wait. One of the things we talk about is looking left and how easy it is to see things in hindsight. But I think part of the reason is because in hindsight, you're not in the trade and you're looking at almost everything you can look at. But when you're in the trade and you're making these decisions, on a tick by tick basis, there's just not enough time to process all that information. There just really isn't. And that's why some of the indicators I write put all the information on the screen for me, either in terms of multimeters or you've seen my price near indicator, just things that I want to know and look at, or have the computer let me know what's going on. So right now I'm looking here, it's nothing but red. It probably wouldn't behoove me to go long. I mean, even the 3LZZ saying it's a short bias off of that 3. And that's just something that you have to do for yourself. I mean, yeah, you can use some of my indicators and figure out the ones you want to use. In fact, there was a trader that was interested in a divergence, so I sent them a couple of templates for the TRO 2017 TRO dashboard. They were interested in doing divergence trades. But each trader, you really have to figure out what's important to you. And it's really easy to get caught up, especially if you've taken a couple losses in a day or in a week. Maybe you're down, say by Wednesday rolls around, instead of being up by 10 or 20, 30 pips, maybe you're down by, I don't know, 10 or 15 pips for the week. And then you start to want to tweak your system. Usually doesn't work out in your favor. Just doesn't. Because what you want to do is you want to cut down on the variables and only have maybe 1 or 2 variables in play. And in that way, you can have the statistics on your side. But it's real easy to get caught up. You do this trade 1 second, then you're doing another trade, and some people are juggling pairs. In fact, a trader was asking me, will you put this in the dashboard? I said, well, no. And the reason is I'm pretty sure I wrote a multi-pair indicator. They were asking me about the 3LZZ recent. I'm pretty sure I wrote a multi-pair indicator for that. But, I really wonder about the traders who want to use dashboards and look at all these different pairs, if you're slaughtering the market, you're very profitable, you can do that. It's great, but I used to do that for a while, but I just found it's so much easier just sticking to one and realizing that rather than try to catch, a bunch of pips, I can trade heavier and take less pips, less trades, and make the same money, if not more. And once again, cutting down on the variables and just focusing on a couple of trades. And most of my trades are simple horizontal line trades. And I know there's some people out there doing the rat trade. There's some out there doing the wick zones. And I know there's at least one guy who's just doing nothing but the pivots. He found that that really works well for him. And that's what each trader has to do. But then again, there's some traders who every week or every other day they've got something different on their charts. And if it sounds like you, well, then yeah, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about you. Because that's just not the way to go. I mean, really, you should try to make trading as boring as possible. It really should be a goal where it's just repetitive. It's almost so repetitive that it's mind numbing because it's like, well, I know what I'm going to do. So it's the trade's at the horizontal line. And if the trade comes to the horizontal line, I'm going to go. Let's see if we put this on a H1. So here it's red candle at the red line. I go short. I mean, it's just not that difficult, right? I mean, it really isn't. And maybe you pick up a couple of pips, add them to the pile. Don't let the trade move against you. And it can be frustrating sometimes. Say you're up 5 pips and it moves against you and you get out with maybe 2 or 3 pips. And then it goes on, you could have had 10 or 20. That's frustrating, but that's just the way it is. Sometimes you're going to catch those breaks. So when you do, just smile, be happy. When they run away after you've exited, just shrug your shoulders and go, "Oh well, maybe next time it'll happen for me." But you don't want to chase the trade. That's the worst thing you can do, or one of the worst things you can do. Probably trading without a plan is the worst, and then trading without a stop loss, no risk management is probably the second. But you wind up with losing all the brain management that you've been working on, and I hope you've been working on it because that's really the biggest piece out of it. And as far as people can always retort, well, why don't you just build an EA? And it's like, yeah, you could do that, but sometimes there's so many subtle things. It's almost hard to capture and code. First, you have to really be able to say it, and as a procedure, as Deming would always say. So for example, here, if you looked at this line, you see price, had a hard time there. It moved, it didn't, and it moved away, then it came back here, and then it finally broke through, and it came back down and broke a little bit. So you can see this level right here is just tough for the pound at the moment. And looking here, you can see that this was building, putting a floor in, then it went through the floor. Now that floor becomes a ceiling almost, especially if you look at, all those wicks there and there and there and there. It's just, price just wouldn't get out of these wick zones. So anyway, fellow traders, I hope you have a fun and safe weekend. And depending on where you live, I hope you keep cool because there's some record setting temperatures going on, a heat wave. So, take care of yourselves out there. And when you sit down at your trading platform, get ready to trade, always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.